During quarantine, we've all had quite a lot of time on our hands. My brother spent that time working out and getting absolutely jacked. I did not. Some people developed intricate skincare routines, but my skin is still drier than my humor. And some people learned the ins and outs of English grammar. I didn't do none of that. No, I spent my time differently. And over the past year of quarantine, I watched 97 and a half movies. Even I couldn't sit through The Irishman. But nonetheless, I saw Caddyshack and Parasite, Shawshank Redemption and Poltergeist. Yet through it all, my favorite was a documentary. I know, what am I, 60? But this documentary is about a foreign journalist who comes to America to learn about our culture so he can improve his own nation. I'm of course talking about Borat, the 2006 Sacha Baron Cohen comedy that made everybody say, "My wife." That's the only time I'll do a Borat impression, I promise. But the comedy in Borat doesn't stem from the writing because there simply is none. Every scene is Sacha Baron Cohen playing a character and torturing innocent civilians with his antics. And it's hilarious. Why? Why did I fall out of my chair laughing when he released a chicken on the New York City subway or chased a man down 52nd Street? Well, it all has to do with Schadenfreude. What, do you not speak German? Oh, it's okay. That's why we have Google Translate and my slides. Schadenfreude stems from the German words Schaden, meaning pain, and Freude, meaning joy. Basically, joy from pain. Specifically, joy from other people's pain. It's when someone feels very bad, but that makes you feel very nice. I know I said I would stop, but I don't know if I can at this point. But let's look into some positive and negative examples of Schadenfreude before diving deep into the psychological principles behind this phenomenon. And finally, let's observe the concept of Schadenfreudistic nationalism. So, much like with Borat, Schadenfreude is the basis of quite a lot of comedy. So let's analyze that comedy and take all the fun out of it. You know, like a good info. Humor has been around since the dawn of time because, and this is true, The Flintstones was a documentary. However, according to the Scientific American article, What's So Funny? The Science of Why We Laugh, one of the earliest theories of comedy actually dates back to Plato, who said that it is intrinsically linked to feelings of superiority. In his book, The Tragedy and Comedy of Life, Plato writes that whenever a joke is told, either the audience or the joke teller is designed to feel superior to the other. I mean, take the oldest joke in the book. I say knock knock and you say, well, nothing, it's a video, but I'm assuming if you were here, you would have said who's there. I say to and you say to who, to which I reply, no, it's not to who, it's to whom. Yeah, this is why I do speech and not stand up. But nonetheless, I did feel superior. I carefully laid out my grammatical landmine and you stepped right on it, you fool. But there's actually a second part to that joke that exemplified the second half of Plato's theory. See, when I said, yeah, this is why I do speech and not stand up, that was you, the audience, directly laughing at me, the joke teller. The only thing is, I wrote that joke. I wanted you to laugh at me. The superiority principle still applies when we are laughing at people who don't want to be laughed at. In 2007, Britney Spears was seen being wheeled into an ambulance after overdosing on amphetamines. This was the culmination of a long downward spiral that saw the star checked into multiple rehab clinics over the past months. Yet somehow, the most talked about part of all of this was that Britney Spears shaved her head. Yeah, the tabloids had a field day using clickbaity headlines like "Inside Britney's Breakdown, Wild Partying, Sobbing in Public." They commercialized her addiction and we bought it. And the same thing has happened to Robert Downey Jr., Macaulay Culkin, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Charlie Sheen, Oprah, Ben Affleck, Demi Lovato, and far too many others. Their pain, their suffering, their addiction, and even sometimes their death has been turned into nothing more than a headline and a profit, all because of Schadenfreude. So what causes Schadenfreude? Well, it stems from two psychological principles: the illusory truth effect and the cognitive ties between feelings of Schadenfreude and feelings of deservingness. So the illusory truth effect, much like my speech, it sounds fancy and intelligent, but much like my speech at its core, it's neither fancy nor intelligent. According to Lisa K. Fazio of Vanderbilt University, the illusory truth effect essentially states that the more you repeat something, the more you will start to believe it. You will give me the one. You will give me the one. You will give me the one. Now, I'm just going to leave this up here for a second. Really read it over. Repeat it in your head. Internalize, if you will, the fact that you will give me the one. But all joking aside, the illusory truth effect is far more prevalent than we might first think. For example, according to Harvard University, orange juice will not cure your common cold. According to Scientific American, carrots will not help your eyesight. And no matter what your crazy aunt keeps posting on Facebook, wearing a mask won't stop you from breathing. And the source for that one is, literally every scientist. Like, all of them. We have heard these rumors, these myths, and these lies time and time again, so more and more of us actually start to believe them. And it goes beyond the illusory truth effect, because according to a 2005 study in the Emotion and Cognition Scientific Journal, there are direct ties between feelings of Schadenfreude and feelings that the person who is suffering deserved to suffer. And there's no better example of this than the Darwin ones. They describe themselves as people who, and I quote, salute the improvement of the human genome by honoring those who accidentally remove themselves from it in a spectacular manner. They laugh at people dying stupidly. And look, I know that sounds morbid and obscene, but somebody cut a grenade in half with a chainsaw. I mean, what did you expect to happen? And this feeling of he had it coming is at the heart of Schadenfreude. Death in and of itself is heartbreaking, and it's one of the worst parts of living. But a poacher being killed by an elephant? Beautiful. What happens when you combine all three elements? When you combine the superiority principle with the illusory truth effect with the feelings of deserved misfortune? You get internalized feelings of deserved superiority. If you think that I'm joking, unfortunately, I no longer am. This can be seen in the British, as they conquered countless peoples in both Asia and Africa, making countless racist political cartoons along the way. It can be seen right now in our own country, as we relentlessly mock immigrants at our southern border who seek nothing more than refuge. And of course, it can be seen in Nazi Germany, but not in the way that you might think. The Polish joke is a term referring to jokes based upon stereotypes of Polish people. It still applies today, but originated in 1920s Germany, when the common stereotype was that all Polish people were criminals. So over the course of the following decade, as Adolf Hitler rose to power, he created something new: Schadenfreudistic nationalism. Instead of these internalized feelings of deserved superiority being on a personal scale, they were scaled up to fit an entire nation. The most terrifying part of all is that they knew this. To quote Hitler, something I never thought I would say, if you tell a big enough lie, and you tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. Now look, not every single German hated Poland, but as we've seen time and time again in history and current events, it is so much easier to turn a blind eye to atrocities when they happen to the very same people that we laugh at. So, I'm not going to tell you to do anything with this information, because I can't. It's in the rules of info. So I won't. I'll just recap my speech and see if you get the gist. When we laugh at people, we feel better than them, whether that be with a perfectly crafted knock-knock joke or the addiction of celebrities. The more we repeat something, the more we start to believe it. You will give me the one. And when we laugh at people who are suffering, we are quick to believe that they deserve to suffer. And the culmination of these three things can be devastating. So no, I'm not going to be the joke police, but next time you're making a joke at someone else's expense, really be sure that you're joking. because your joy can be someone else's pain.